Adam Taxin here with Tom Beccaro, who is the former chairman of the California GOP, candidate, a strong Republican candidate for the U.S. Senate, where he'll probably, I think, run against Kamala Harris there, and the author of the new book, The Divided Era, which I really like. I haven't read, but I love books with titles which you know exactly what they mean. Tom, thank you for coming on with me to talk about last night's Republican debate.
Thanks so much for having me on.
I want to start with the 800-pound gorilla, Donald Trump. I saw in your literature that you didn't think he did too well, and I want you to explain that, but I may have a contrarian view after I let you say your piece.
Well, first of all, I think the big loser of the debate was Fox. I thought their intensely negative questioning out of the box may have been designed to convince America that they would be even-handed, but it also started out with the ugly side of politics, which turns a lot of people off. You know, this is about who's going to be the leader of the free world. Why couldn't we ask the question, first of all, a lot of people had no idea who some of those people were on the stage.
Right.
Why didn't they give them the chance to say for 10 seconds, hi, my name is? And then why don't they ask them a basic question? What's your governing philosophy? How would you be as a president? Instead, they immediately went to a moment where they knew that Donald Trump would be contrarian, and then you start this negative process. So I think he didn't get off to a good start. Look, he spoke more than anyone else. I just thought he never got on a roll. I thought the constant negativity on the stage didn't give him a chance to talk about what he wanted to do, which didn't occur until the very end of the debate, and who knows who was still watching by the end.
Yeah, let me follow up with that, though. The thing that I found kind of not off-putting, but unusual, was there were commercials, and so I kind of understand why Fox did that, and obviously, you know, you can Google people if you're so, you know, you can look up who the people are afterward. I mean, it was more of a TV show than other debates that I remember.
Yeah.
Now, I know in the literature Maria sent me that you thought he didn't do too well and that Cruz is likely to pick up some of his votes. But I have to say, you don't know who I am or anything, but I deal a lot with internet memes, with Facebook and all sorts of social media. And I'm seeing what memes are being forwarded right now, what things. And I got to tell you, the most popular one of all is Trump's. I think the big problem this country has is being politically correct. And it's interesting because that's what people are going to remember, not the whole exchange with Megyn Kelly, which I'll get into with you in a minute. But I just found it, you know, I find that Trump's words are sticking with people. The second one, by the way, is Cruz's, we will not defeat radical Islamic terrorism so long as we have a president unwilling to utter the words radical Islamic terrorism. But, you know, do you think it's possible Trump came out a winner? Go on.
Look, I'm not saying that Trump did awful. I'm saying he never got to a point, I thought, where he was on a Trump roll, which is, hey, this is about leadership. And we've given a lot of these people, even people on this stage, a chance, and they haven't led. Certainly our president hasn't led. And here's the things I want to do. Because their initial questioning of him was, or almost all of it, was negative. And so I would have much preferred a debate about a serious issue like the presidency for Fox not to try and attempt to increase its ratings among the non-normal Fox viewers.
Right.
But if they would have given Trump a chance to say, why do you want to be president? Not instead of coming out with these intensely negative situations. So I'm not saying Trump did bad. I'm saying he didn't get a chance to get on a roll like he would have. And when Trump's on a roll, he says things exactly like, we're tired of everything being PC. We're tired of excuses. This is what America needs. I don't think he ever got to that moment because of the manner in which the so-called debate was put on by Fox.
Well, except for the fact that his line is probably the most popular one that's come out, at least among my crowd.
There were some good lines. I mean, I thought obviously the biggest applause line of the night was Ben Carson saying that they beat him to it when it comes to brain operations in Washington.
You know, the funny thing is, I thought that wasn't even his best line. I thought the best line was Huckabee setting up the joke about where everyone thought he was talking about Trump, and then he talked about Hillary Clinton. But I thought Carson's best line, actually, was the very sort of dry humor way he talked about, well, I'm the only one who separated Siamese twins. Well, obviously there. So, but I thought he came off very well. But I want to just...
And Rubio had a great line about, look at all these great candidates we have and the Democrats can't come up with one.
Ha! Good one. Yeah, that was good, and his delivery was solid. But, you know, it's funny. I almost feel icky calling it a debate. A debate to me is something like Lincoln Douglas. I debated in high school. This wasn't a debate. It was, I call it soundbite-a-palooza. I mean, it just was, it's an insult to debaters. I don't blame the candidates. What can you do with 10 people? But you can barely have a debate with 3 people.
I agree 100%. It was going to be a bit of a food fight, and we never got to a situation where I felt that they could say, look, here's what I want to do. Now, look, they tried to do that at times. They were given these questions over here, and they wanted to take it over there. But our debate, so-called debate process, because so many people have been involved, has turned into this intensely negative, non-policy fight. And, you know, you're bringing up Lincoln Douglas, which, you know, those lasted for hours, and there wasn't commercial interruption, and there wasn't, you know, people trying to make money off the process. I thought the governors did well when they talked about their record. I thought Cruz did well because he sounded principled. I thought Huckabee was folksy as he always is and carried himself off pretty well.
Well, he's not the character from, what's the L.A. Kazan movie? You know, he's not folksy like that, even though he's from Arkansas. You know, the one with Andy Griffith, a face in the crowd. Yeah. He's really not folksy. He doesn't seem like a hick at all to me.
Well, I think what he did is he sounded... well, you know, I was with Huckabee not long ago for an extended period of time. And, you know, he likes to tell stories, but, you know, I thought he was forceful at times. I didn't think Rand Paul got 5 minutes. Walker only got 5 minutes. He was very crisp in his answers. You know, Trump got 10 minutes and 52 seconds. Walker got like 5 minutes and 8 seconds.
Oh, that's interesting. That's another indictment of Fox, I would guess. You know, you mentioned Rand Paul. Well, okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Part of that was that Walker was very crisp in his answers. He didn't keep going on. I think Bush got the second most time of anyone on the stage. I didn't think he put forth a particular good performance. I think the people that came out of it better than where they were Kasich, Huckabee, and Cruz, and certainly Carly from the first debate.
Yeah.
Well, they're going to rise.
Yeah, well...
At whose expense, we'll have to see.
Well, you know, you mentioned Walker. I mean, he may well be the best candidate the Republicans have, but I don't think anyone's surprised that he is not the story today. Everyone knew he would just be solid. I mean, I don't think anyone's shocked that there's very little discussion about Walker today. Now, you mentioned Rand Paul, and we were talking about debating. Would you agree with my assessment that the best aspect of the debate, the so-called debate last night, from a pure debating standpoint, was the exchange between Chris Christie and Rand Paul related to phone records and also, I guess, the work Christie did?
Yeah, I agree with you. They drilled down the farthest in their differences of opinion. You saw Rand Paul with sort of soaring rhetoric, and you saw Chris Christie in his natural style as well. People forget, amidst all of Trump's combativeness, that Christie's pretty combative as well.
Yeah.
I actually think between the two of them that Rand Paul comes off better politically because he shores up his base and the people who support him. I'm not sure that Christie gains so much, but, you know, it's not like Christie's very high in the polls.
Right. Yeah, no. I mean, he had nothing to lose. You know, I wonder on a different standpoint. You're of Italian background?
Yes.
Okay. You know, I'm Jewish, but I'm from the southern Philadelphia suburbs. A lot of Italians there. And I often wonder, is it a little bit stereotyping when they talk about Christie's personality, you know, the way he waves his arms around? Are some of these just characteristics, you know, I'll always talk about Jewish characteristics of Italians and being Italian-American, Southern Italians in particular, which is where the Italian-Americans are generally from. I mean, is there a little bit of Italian stereotyping? People don't even realize Christie's Italian because his name ends with an E rather than an I. I'm just wondering your opinion as an Italian American on that.
Not really. I think it shows that he has personality. Look, physically, the guy on the stage who had the most animation last night was Trump.
Yeah.
He's the one who raised his hands high in the air.
Well, he's been in New York his own life. All his Jewish people probably rubbed off on him that way.
Yeah, so that doesn't so much bother me. I'll tell you the biggest story today, in my mind, in all of politics, is Chuck Schumer coming out against the Iran
I want to talk to you about that, but can I go back to something on the debate? I definitely want to talk to you about that. I talked about the Trump exchange with Kelly, and you're running for Republican senator in California, the Republican nomination for senator, and you have a likely opponent in Kamala Harris, who's a very good-looking woman, and I say that as, particularly good-looking. And whether we like her or not, let's at least, attest to that. But the reason I saw someone say that Trump came off as anti-woman because of the exchange with Megyn Kelly yesterday, in which he treated her, in my opinion, the way Trump would treat a man, treated a woman exactly the same way. And he said women aren't going to like that. And my immediate response to that was, well, no, actually, probably a lot of women don't like Megyn Kelly because she's so good looking. And you know how women are with that. Do you have any responses to that whole exchange? And do you think Trump looked bad to women? I didn't think he did so. It's Trump being Trump.
Yes, Trump's equal opportunity basher when he wants to be. Look, you said it right. Trump is Trump. For a lot of people, he's an acquired taste. Some people don't like someone of his personality. Look, and that's a difficult thing for him. You got to persuade more than half the nation to like you. Politics is very much a popularity contest. Always has been. The last 9 presidential winners have been the perceived better personality, and so that's an issue Trump will have to face. The West Coast doesn't really see, and a lot of the rest of the country doesn't necessarily see the banter that he had with Rosie O'Donnell or that kind of thing.
Right.
And so if you're in California and you have a certain sensibility, and Trump's quintessential New Yorker, Christie can be a quintessential New Yorker at times. So that's an acquired taste, and they need to be able to appeal to other people. I think that's the bigger issue.
Right.
I mean, certainly, look, I've been in the public sphere for 12 years. I don't use language like that.
Right.
So...
Well, yeah, but I thought that was a cheap shot because... he used terms.
The first 40 minutes was a cheap shot.
No. I mean, at Trump, because, if I would have had a better answer if I was Trump. He would say, yeah, but I use the term a-hole only for males. There are certain terms which are derogatory terms. I use them all. But you just don't call a woman a horse's ass. It just doesn't sound right. And you don't call a guy a bitch unless you're trying to really demean his masculinity or something. That's the answer to me.
Look, to me, the first 40 minutes were terrible. It shows the ugly side of politics. It's why people turn politics off.
Well,
at some point, this should be about the presidency, and that's, we need a better direction for the country. You don't get that the first 40 minutes. I think probably a lot of people turn the TV off at that point.
Interesting. Yeah, it was it was ugly that way, yet you couldn't have the real one-on-one combat like you had with Rand Paul and Chris Christie, which would make it very compelling. One last thought on women, though. I think implied is with Trump and women is the fact that he's been divorced twice. I'm going through a divorce myself right now, not officially yet. But, I don't know if that necessarily says anything because the reality is, the women, he didn't fail to pay child support. The women probably didn't want to have any more children, and he has had children with all 3 women. Do you think that makes him anti-woman? To me, Lindsey Graham is probably more anti-woman because he's been married to 0 women.
I think at the end of the day, the Clintons don't exactly represent a lot of people's values, so I don't think they'll be able to make much of that.
Right, that's true. Do you think it will be Hillary Clinton for sure?
No, not at all. When the FBI is obviously looking to now criminal conduct, and she thinks she plays above the rules, and she obviously is lying about it, I think she is vulnerable. You could have a situation as late as February or March where really bad stuff comes out, and just like Johnson in '68 dropped out of the race, this could certainly happen to her.
And that would be a disaster with all the donors and stuff, I imagine. But we're seeing some of that right now.
There would be a wreck to them.
Wow.
But should it be different? Does she get to lie about confidential information? She says, "Oh, I didn't know it was classified."
Mm-hmm.
She's been in government for how long? She was first lady, and she was an active policy first lady.
Mm-hmm.
And she's trying to tell me that she doesn't know the rules on what is classified. That's laughable. She wanted to do things her way, and it turns out it wasn't legal, and then she lies about it. So she's created this herself. These are unforced errors. There was zero reason for her to do it this way. She was just playing above the rules.
And the Obama administration clearly does not have her back. I mean, this is not the vast right-wing. This is the vast left-wing conspiracy right now, getting her. It's not Republicans doing it right.
You mean the left wing of the White House? There's no love. I mean, they've gone after each other on and off over the years. And so, no, and Valerie Jarrett has never liked the Clintons.
Right.
So it wouldn't surprise me. Now, look, they're treating them better than they treated Petraeus. They haven't, gone in and seized like they would for anyone else on Earth. But no, I think there is a path for her to tumble. She's a horrible candidate to begin with.
Yeah.
She's terrible with everyday people. She doesn't have Bill's personality.
Right.
She's far more of an ideologue than Bill ever was. So she's having trouble with it. And then she plays the victim card whenever you confront her.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. Oh, this is for years they've been coming after me. And as you so well point out, who's coming after you now? The New York Times?
Yeah, and it's
the White House?
It seems like death by 1,000 cuts. It's as if they're sending her a new message, like a new dead horse head. Not to make an Italian stereotype there. I didn't mean to go there. But you know what I'm saying there. I mean, it's just like, at eventually she will get the message, it seems to me. I want to go through a few issues before I go to Chuck Schumer, but let me know if you're running out of time, because I do want to get to that last. With Trump, I think the media is misreading it, and I haven't heard a lot of discussion talking about this, but there is a huge voice among conservative Americans, and I'll give you a hint, he has twice the audience of the next highest radio personality, at least on the conservative side. Rush Limbaugh loves Donald Trump, and it's making him so legitimate among conservatives, and he's clearly not for Jeb. How much of a factor is that in the fact that Trump is soaring to this possibility? He's getting, he likes Cruz too, but Donald Trump is completely getting the Limbaugh stamp of approval.
Look, if you follow the old rule that all publicity is good publicity, Donald Trump's so far running a really good campaign because he's striking a nerve and he dominates the discussion. And the reason why he's dominating the discussion is because of what he's doing. And the press can't help but cover him because he's 3 times bigger than life. The fact that, and one of the guys who's most angry about Washington and how Republicans act is, of course, Limbaugh. So, yeah, Limbaugh is a big wind beneath his wings.
This is huge.
I can't reconcile I liked single payer, now I don't.
Right.
I don't believe that he is quote unquote conservative. And Limbaugh was never going to go for a third Bush, let alone this particular one. So yeah, no, he's getting a big lift in a lot of places. The question is, over a 16 debate process, and when policy gets drilled on, whether he's going to be able to come through that with a consistent philosophy that will be trusted at the end of the day. Remember, there's politicians who've looked brilliant for months,
right,
and then just collapsed, like Howard Dean.
Yeah,
had the momentum, no reason to lose, and then somehow clutch defeat from the jaws of victory.
I think the big loser with Limbaugh is Scott Walker, who Limbaugh likes a lot, but I think he's stealing not stealing, but he's getting a lot of the Limbaugh praise that Scott Walker might otherwise be getting. And Ted Cruz was given to begin with, that Limbaugh would love him. And he is getting a lot of attention from Limbaugh. But this is totally legitimizing Trump to the right, in my opinion. And no one's talking about this.
I agree.
It's huge. And along those lines, at the same time, Glenn Beck is not Rush Limbaugh. I think a lot of people are starting to think Beck's a whack job. But he's bashing Trump almost so much that, given Beck's negatives, it may be helping Trump. What's your take on that? Or are you just not following it because Beck isn't significant enough compared to Limbaugh?
No. Look, Beck has a considerable following. Look, this is what's going to happen when some guy steps in from the outside and gets in the middle of party politics.
Right.
It's going to cause this sort of warfare. The key to Trump right now is that he's calling out obvious things. And that's not normal political behavior. Mm-hmm. To be un-PC and say this isn't working or they're not doing enough. And, Beck is talking about principle. Is he really conservative or not? That's not unnatural. And this is going to continue to go on and on and on, because the Republican Party generally doesn't nominate people the first time they get into something. That's their history. You got to run for president, lose, and run again in the Republican Party. It's not like the Democrats. The Democrats went for Dukakis the first time, Kerry the first time, Obama the first time, Clinton the first time. They'll jump into bed immediately. Republicans beat each other up and see if you can come back. And so that's what he's facing.
Great point. I want to get into a point Rubio made about illegal immigration. I know it started with Trump being asked about it, and he had a little bit of an exchange with Chris Wallace, and then Kasich came in. But I interviewed David Goldman Spengler. I don't know if you know the columnist for Asia Times, but he has a bit of a following. And he had called Donald Trump a demagogue for ignoring the fact that Mexican immigration to the U.S. has declined in the last few years. And I thought Rubio made a really just smart point about the fact that the immigrants aren't even from Mexico. Do you think just evaluate Rubio's performance on that issue? Obviously, he's a little closer to immigration himself.
I thought he did well. The problem, of course, is where they're coming, how they're getting here. It is true that they're coming from Honduras and El Salvador, but they're coming through Mexico, and the issue still remains the porous border. Look, I thought Rubio did as good as anyone last night. Whether that translates into him jumping up in the polls is a different question. But details should be what the governors and a Rubio and the senators, they should be really good on details. And I thought they did come out with that. And Trump should be really good on the leadership issue, saying where's the direction in our country. So I thought Rubio did well. And the more details they get into, that should help elevate them compared to Trump. Trump's got to play his cards as best he can, which is about strong leadership.
I noticed you were obviously very critical of Fox before. Another area which it could be criticized, racial issues are very much on people's mind. There is so much disgust, and I see it online, even though it's not politically correct to talk about, with the whole Black Lives Matter thing, with Michael Brown. There's a real resistance to that it's gone too far, and obviously we had the riots in Baltimore. Did Fox really drop the ball, or were they just going for commercials and just sort of poo-pooing that whole subject?
Well, look, I wrote an entire book on division in America called The Divided Era. You can get it at Amazon.
Yes.
All government divides us. Mm-hmm. Because we turn at the beginning of civilizations, governments are a competition for ideas. At the end, it's a competition for spoils. Mm-hmm. And when it's a competition for spoils, we climb over each other. The economy stagnates with big government, and it's divide, separate, redistribute. That theme reaches the economy, it reaches the racial issues, lots of stuff. And I didn't think we had a discussion of how you bring back a country, bring it together again amidst all this division. That was one thing they didn't talk about. But over the next 15 more debates, I'm sure it will be.
And I guess implied in that is that the Obama administration is very thrilled to have these little riots going on and people being divided, is what you're saying essentially, right?
When you are the one handing out spoils, often you trumpet your cause over someone else's. It's very hard for a Kennedy to come along and say, amidst bad division, he's the first president to get elected, losing more states than winning, suspect voting in Illinois. He came out and rose above it. Not capable of that. He wants to divide us, and that's how he succeeded.
Would you, coming back to illegal immigration, what did you think of Trump's point to Wallace that if it were not for him, we wouldn't even be talking about illegal immigration?
It is false. It is false. I've been in this game for 12 years. Immigration is on everybody's mind. Would they be talking about it in the same way? No. But the categorical statement that it wouldn't have come up at all, I don't agree with.
Now, also, Scott Walker, who I guess we're not talking about neither negatively or positively, he did have some things to say about the Iran deal, and I'm just wondering if you could comment on that and the issue of Iran in general, but leave Chuck Schumer out.
Deal, and I have to run in a moment here. The Iran deal is horrible, and I wrote about this in the Washington Times for a lot of reasons, and it was good that Scott Walker brought that up. It's really sad we didn't have a greater discussion, especially with Chuck Schumer coming out against it. That was a place where, and since it's a very topical issue, I mean, the tense debate, maybe the Iran deal isn't as timely, but they should have had that discussion and demonstrated, why they think this isn't good for America. But Fox dropped the ball on that. So I'm glad he did bring it up. They should have brought up Schumer not coming out and saying that he was against it, and that just didn't happen.
By the way, I'm disgusted by Schumer's posturing here. What do you mean? After deep study, he realized this? The guy's a Jew who basically loves getting money from Jewish causes, and, he should have been out there outraged all along, in my opinion. And he goes to AIPAC Jewish groups and talks about how his last name Schumer means guardian, but his wishy-washiness just disgusts me here. I mean...
Well, he was trying to be contemplative about the process. Look, I do have to run, but okay. I want to close with this. The Iran deal is bad because, remember, and I know you know this, Iran's goal is to be dominant in the Middle East and then project power and terror from there. For a very long time, they've thought the most important thing they can do to get that power is to have a bomb. 7 years ago, they never dreamed that they would have troops that they were directing inside Iraq, inside Yemen, and of course they've had the client state of Syria for years, Hezbollah and Hamas. But they are winning the conventional war in the Middle East. So they strike this deal because oil's at $50. They're desperate for money so that they can pay for the troops on the ground. They'll push out 2 or 3 years for nuclear weapons.
Tom, I know
they're winning on the ground.
Tom, I know you have to go. I just want to get 20, 30 seconds from you on 3 more things if you have it. Real quickly, this is, again, Tom Del Beccaro, author of The Divided Era, Senate candidate in California. 1, Ted Cruz and Planned Parenthood last night.
Look, to win a primary, you only have to get about 15%. And look, Rick Santorum's going to try and corner the pro-life vote. Ted Cruz is going to try and corner the pro-life vote. Not surprising that him and Huckabee came out very strong on that. That's what they want. That's their ticket to winning a primary.
Second to last, Mike Huckabee's comment about the Wall Street to Washington axis of power.
It's true. Throughout all of history, the rich have had a greater say than the everyday person. Especially in this presidency with quantitative easing, where they gave money to the big banks, but then Dodd-Frank prevented them from loaning it out, and so they put it into Wall Street, and they've made millions, and half of America's been left behind.
Finally, I'm not sure I'm saving the best for last here, but Jeb Bush's comments about Common Core, will they help get that albatross off him?
No.
Basically.
And Kasich has trouble with Obamacare as well. You know, he said, Bush says, I want local control. Well, fine. Then fight for local control. You can't, on the one hand, say big government. His Common Core is equivalent to Romney saying, I'm against Obamacare. Forget the fact that I created the template for it.
Right. So Tom, he's not going to be able to shake the Common Core thing too easily.
No. I don't think he ever can. He can't walk away from it. I think it'll dog him the whole way. But, you know, there's a lot of money behind the Bushes and this campaign. I expect him to last through Iowa, even though he's going to do poorly. I think Walker will win Iowa. I think Trump will be in there. And you'll get 4, 5, 6 people that drop out after New Hampshire. And I think Scott Walker will be in the top 2 going into South Carolina. And then Bush will be there as well because he has a lot of money.
And who's the fourth? I assume you are saying Trump will be in there too. Who will be the wild card?
Depends on how much he likes this.
How much what?
How much Trump likes this process.
Well, who would be the other person besides Bush, Walker, and Trump? Cruz? Huckabee?
I gotta have some dark horse possibility.
Gotcha.
I actually think Kasich could play well over time. Look, you can't win without Ohio. He's done a great job there, even though he expanded Medicaid with Obamacare. I actually think he could go in for a good run here.
So a final 4 you're looking at of Walker, Bush, Trump, and Kasich. Interesting. All right, Tom Del Beccaro, I know you have to go. You've been very generous with your time. I want to mention your book once more, and I'll let you put a pitch for it as the last thing we say. You're a candidate for the U.S. Senate. You can mention your website there. Former chairman of the California GOP and author of The Divided Era, and I'll let you close.
Yeah, The Divided Era explains how ever larger government and the competition to hand out spoils and to control government divides us. You can get it at Amazon.com and Del Beccaro for Senate.com for my Senate race. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bring me back sometime, all right?
Thank you.